August 20th, 1977. Sarah Mitchell was 9 months pregnant, and her husband Tom had begged her not to come. But this was Elvis, the king of rock and roll. And Sarah had a feeling, a mother's intuition, that this night would be special. She just didn't know how special. As Elvis took the stage in his white jumpsuit, crystal studs catching the golden light of the Florida sunset, Sarah felt the first contraction. Sharp, sudden, like lightning tearing through her body. 20 minutes into Love Me Tender, her water broke. 55,000 people were singing along, but Sarah was screaming. Her husband Tom grabbed her hand, panic flooding his eyes. Security started moving toward them. But then something extraordinary happened. Elvis stopped singing. The music died, and the king looked directly at Sarah, his voice carrying across the stadium. "Ma'am, are you okay?" What happened next would become the most beautiful birth story ever told, and a secret that Elvis took to his grave just 16 days later. While this full of hope story continues, don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Untold. The beginning of that night, when Sarah Mitchell woke up that morning, the weight she felt wasn't just the exhaustion of being 9 months pregnant. It was something deeper, a restlessness. She sat on the edge of the bed in Tampa's humid August heat and looked down at her swollen feet. Her husband Tom was making breakfast in the kitchen, his voice echoing down the hallway. "Sarah, please give up on going to the concert tonight. The doctor said you could give birth any moment. What business do you have at a stadium?" Sarah smiled. Tom was right, of course. The sensible thing would be to stay home, to be close to the hospital. But Elvis Presley only came to Tampa once in a lifetime, maybe the last time. Newspaper reports were saying Elvis's health was deteriorating. He would return to Memphis at the end of August and might never tour again. Sarah had first seen Elvis on television when she was 13 in 1956 on The Ed Sullivan Show. Those hip movements had shocked all of America. Her mother had wanted to turn off the television, but Sarah had resisted. Something changed inside her that night. Music wasn't just music anymore. It was freedom. It was rebellion. It was a dream. 21 years later, she was now 34 years old, and the baby in her belly was kicking, as if it could feel Elvis too. Tom poked his head through the kitchen door. "Sarah, I'm serious. This is crazy." Sarah stood up, walked to Tom with her pregnant belly, and placed her hand on her husband's shoulder. "Tom, if this baby is coming into the world today, at least let it hear Elvis, please." Tom shook his head, but when he saw the determination in Sarah's eyes, he gave in. Since they'd gotten married, he'd never been able to say no to that look in Sarah's eyes. "Okay, but we're sitting in the front row. If anything happens, we leave immediately." Sarah hugged her husband. "I promise, nothing will happen." But Sarah was wrong. When Tampa Stadium opened its doors at 4 in the afternoon, Sarah and Tom checked their tickets and walked toward the front rows. The stadium was starting to fill up. Families, teenagers, elderly people. Everyone had come to see Elvis. As Sarah looked around, what she saw was the longing of a generation. Women in their 50s were holding Elvis posters. Veterans were wearing their military uniforms, remembering Elvis's years in Germany. Young people were trying to understand why their parents were such fans of Elvis. When Sarah sat down in her seat, just 20 meters from the stage, she felt another contraction. This time, it was stronger. She held her breath, Tom noticed. "Sarah, are you okay?" Sarah smiled. "I'm fine. Just Braxton Hicks. False contractions. The doctor said they'd happen." Tom wasn't convinced, but he held Sarah's hand, and they waited. It was past 7 when the stadium lights went out. The crowd screamed. Sarah's heart raced. And then it happened. The spotlight came on, and Elvis Presley walked onto the stage. The white jumpsuit hugged his body, crystal studs catching the lights. He'd gained weight. The newspapers wrote about it mercilessly. But to Sarah, he was still the king. Elvis took the microphone and opened with, "C.C. Ryder." The stadium shook. The voices of 55,000 people merged into one scream. Sarah screamed too. Tears rolled down her cheek. This was the moment she'd been waiting for 21 years. Elvis was singing, and Sarah was there, front row, with her baby. But nobody knew that this night wouldn't just be a concert. When Elvis moved on to Trying to Get to You, Sarah relaxed. The contractions had stopped. Maybe it really was Braxton Hicks. Maybe her baby would wait a few more days. But then Elvis started Love Me Tender. That soft, melancholic melody filled the stadium. Sarah leaned on Tom's shoulder. Elvis had sat down in the center of the stage, holding his guitar. His eyes were closed, as if he'd drifted into a memory. Sarah didn't know, but Elvis always sang that song for his mother, Gladys. Gladys had died in 1958, and Elvis hadn't been comfortable a single day without her, had started burying his pain in medication. Now it was 1977, and Elvis's body had become a ruin of prescription drugs. But in that moment, singing that song, Elvis looked peaceful. Something burst in Sarah's belly. No, burst wasn't the right word. A wave came, powerful, sharp. The abdominal muscles contracted with such force that Sarah's breath caught. She put her hand on her belly. Hot liquid flowed beneath the seat. Tom noticed. His eyes widened. "Sarah, this is—" Sarah nodded. "My water broke." Tom jumped up. Okay. Stay calm. Let's get out. I'll call an ambulance." But Sarah couldn't move. The pain was so intense she'd frozen solid. And then she screamed, involuntarily, without control. In the midst of 55,000 people, Sarah Mitchell's scream somehow reached Elvis Presley's ears. Elvis was singing the second verse of Love Me Tender when he heard it. A scream, not a fan's scream. Something different, filled with pain, desperate. Elvis opened his eyes. He kept singing but directed his attention to the front rows. There was a woman writhing. Her husband, or boyfriend, Elvis didn't know who, was trying to hold the woman. Security guards were starting to approach. As Elvis tried to follow the melody of the song, he noticed something. The woman was pregnant, very pregnant, and something was going terribly wrong. A memory came to Elvis's mind. He was 9 years old, Tupelo, Mississippi. In their small poorhouse, his mother Gladys had given birth. She was going to have twins, Elvis and Jesse. But Jesse had been stillborn. Elvis had listened to his mother scream as she lost a baby. That sound had never left his mind. Now, 42 years later, at Tampa Stadium, he was hearing the same sound. And something happened inside Elvis. A decision, sudden, instinctive. Elvis stopped singing. He raised his hand, and the orchestra stopped. The music died. The stadium plunged into silence. 55,000 people were trying to understand what was happening. Elvis leaned into the microphone. "Ma'am, are you okay?" His voice reached every corner of the stadium. Sarah lifted her head. Her eyes found Elvis's eyes, and in that moment, a connection formed between them. Fear, panic, but also hope. Elvis left the stage. His assistants whispered, "Elvis, what are you doing?" But Elvis didn't hear them. He got down from the stage and ran to Sarah. The crowd was in shock. Nobody was moving. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was running to the front row. When he reached Sarah, he dropped to his knees. "What happened, sweetheart?" Sarah answered through tears. "My baby. It's coming. Now," Tom spoke in a panic. "We called an ambulance, but Tampa traffic. It'll take at least 20 minutes. Elvis nodded. He looked around. The stadium crowd was watching silently. No movement, no sound, just waiting. Elvis made a decision. He turned to the security guards. "Take her backstage, now. And is there a doctor among you?" A voice rose from the crowd. "I'm a doctor." A man in his 50s stood up. He was in the back rows. Elvis shouted, "Come here, run!" But Sarah was too bad to move. Elvis looked at Sarah. "Listen to me. I'm here. You're safe. Do you understand?" Sarah nodded. Elvis turned to Tom. "We're going to carry her on stage. It's safer there. More room." Tom objected. "But—" Elvis gave a sharp look. "Now! There's no time!" Elvis took Sarah in his arms. The woman was heavier than he'd thought, pregnancy and weight, but Elvis found strength. Maybe it was adrenaline. Maybe it was that old Elvis, the young and strong Elvis. He walked to the stage. 55,000 people stood and watched silently. Nobody applauded. Nobody shouted. It was just a collective holding of breath. Elvis laid Sarah in the center of the stage. He pushed his guitar aside. The doctor came running from the back rows and climbed onto the stage. The doctor examined Sarah. His face grew serious. He turned to Tom. "How many weeks?" Tom answered, trembling. 39 weeks, right on time." The doctor nodded. "Good, but the baby's coming fast. The ambulance won't make it. We have to deliver here." Tom's face turned white. "Here? On top of the stage?" The doctor answered in a calm voice. "We have no other choice," Elvis intervened. "What can I do?" The doctor looked at Elvis. He was surprised. You're Elvis Presley." Elvis smiled slightly. "Yes, and right now I want to help a woman who's trying to become a mother. And tell me what I can do," the doctor thought, then made his decision. "Keep her calm. Talk to her. Distract her. The birth pain will be unbearable. If you can calm her down, our job gets easier." Elvis nodded. He turned to Sarah. He held her hand. "Sarah, isn't it?" Sarah was surprised. "How did you know?" Elvis smiled. "Your husband shouted your name. Listen, Sarah, now I'm going to tell you something. My mother gave birth to me as a twin. My brother Jesse died at birth. My mother always told me, 'Elvis, you carry two souls, yours and Jesse's. Now your baby is coming into the world, and it will carry one soul, a strong soul, because you're strong. I see it in your eyes." Sarah smiled through tears. "Thank you." Elvis bowed his head. "Now breathe. Deep breath. I'm here." Then Elvis did something surprising. He started singing. He finished "Love Me Tender." There was no orchestra, no music, just Elvis's voice, a cappella. The stadium listened silently. As Sarah breathed in and out, Elvis was singing. The doctor continued his work. Tom was holding his wife's hand, and 55,000 people were witnessing history. The baby's arrival. 15 minutes had passed when the doctor spoke. "Okay, Sarah, now you have to push. Are you ready?" Sarah nodded, trembling. The pain was unbearable. The doctor was counting. 1, 2, 3. Push. Sarah pushed with all her strength. She screamed. Elvis stopped singing. He wiped Sarah's forehead. "You're doing it. You're amazing. Keep going." Tom was crying. "You're holding on, my love. Almost there." The doctor counted again. 1, 2, 3, push. Sarah pushed again, this time stronger. The baby's head appeared. The doctor spoke excitedly. "I see it. The head's showing. One more, Sarah. Once more." Elvis turned to the stadium. He took the microphone. "Friends, a miracle is happening here. My request from all of you, stay quiet. Pray for this mother and baby." The stadium grew even quieter, so quiet you could hear Sarah's breathing. Elvis put down the microphone and turned back to Sarah. "One last one. You can do it." The doctor was ready. "Okay, Sarah, the biggest one now. 1, 2, 3, push!" Sarah gathered her last strength. Every cell in her body ached, but she pushed. And then, a baby's cry. The stadium groaned, the sound of collective relief. The doctor was holding the baby. "A boy! A healthy baby boy!" Tom dropped to his knees. "Our son! We have a son!" Sarah was crying. From happiness, from relief, from incredulity. Elvis smiled. Tears gathered at the corners of his eyes. The doctor placed the baby on Sarah's chest. The baby kept crying, a healthy, strong cry. Sarah looked at her baby. "Hello, little one." "Hello." Tom hugged his wife. "You did it, my love. You did it." Elvis stood up. He turned to the stadium. He took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice was trembling, "tonight you witnessed history. Sarah and Tom have a healthy son. And this little man, took his first breath with "Love Me Tender." The stadium exploded. Applause. Screaming. The air had emptied, it seemed. 55,000 people were standing and applauding. Some were crying, some were laughing. Elvis smiled. "Have you thought of a name?" Tom and Sarah looked at each other. They hadn't thought about it. But in that moment, that magical moment, the decision was easy. Sarah looked at Elvis. "Elvis Aaron. His name will be Elvis Aaron." Elvis was surprised. "My name?" Sarah nodded. "You brought him into the world. You sang him his first song. He should carry your name." Tears rolled from Elvis's eyes. In his 42-year career, in thousands of concerts, 55,000 fans had talked, applauded, screamed. But he'd never been this moved. "I'm honored, truly honored." But Elvis did one more thing, something nobody heard. The ambulance finally arrived. The paramedics climbed onto the stage and put Sarah and the baby on a stretcher. Tom would go with them. But before leaving, Elvis gave Tom something. The white scarf from around his neck. "Give this to your son. Tell him he was special to me too." Tom took the scarf. "Thank you, Mr. Presley. We'll never forget." Elvis smiled. "I won't forget either." As Sarah was being laid on the stretcher, Elvis leaned close to her. He whispered in her ear. Nobody heard. The stadium was still applauding. The paramedics were carrying the stretcher. Tom was walking beside his wife. But that moment, those few seconds, belonged only to Sarah and Elvis. What did Elvis say? Sarah never fully explained. But years later, in an interview, she would say through tears, "Elvis told me something very personal, something about my baby, and those words changed my life. But I can never share them. Elvis wanted it that way." What did Elvis say that night? The ambulance took Sarah, Tom, and baby Elvis Aaron to the hospital. At the stadium, the concert continued. Elvis returned to the stage, but something had changed. Elvis was softer, more sincere. He sang Jailhouse Rock, but with less energy. He finished with "Can't Help Falling in Love" and left the stage. He sat backstage. His assistant Charlie Hodge came to him. "Elvis, are you okay?" Elvis nodded. "I'm fine, Charlie. Just something special happened today." Charlie smiled. "Yes, special. Everyone's talking about you. Tomorrow all the newspapers will headline it. Elvis delivers baby on stage." Elvis laughed slightly. "Headlines don't matter, Charlie. That baby matters." When Elvis returned to his hotel room that night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed. He looked at the ceiling. In his mind was Sarah's face, the baby's cry, Tom's happiness, and his own mother, Gladys. He wished Gladys had been there, wished she could have seen how her son saved a life. Elvis reached for the prescription pill bottle. He held it in his hand, then put it back. He didn't take any medication that night. He just tried to sleep. But he couldn't, because he knew, he felt it. His time was approaching. 16 days after the Tampa concert, Elvis returned to Memphis, Graceland, that big, lonely mansion. Elvis was tired. His body ached. His doctor, Dr. George Nicopolis, everyone called him Dr. Nick, examined him and was worried. "Elvis, you need to rest. Cancel the tour. Your body can't take it." Elvis shook his head. "It will take it, Nick. It has to. I have debts. I have concerts." Dr. Nick sighed. "Elvis, you need to reduce the prescription drugs. Your liver." Elvis gave a sharp look. "Nick, without the drugs, I can't stand on stage. The pain is unbearable." Dr. Nick said nothing. What could he say? Elvis thought a lot about that Tampa night during those days. Sarah, the baby. That little creature carrying the name Elvis Aaron. He wondered where they were now. Was the baby healthy? Elvis told his assistant to call the hospital in Tampa. Find Sarah and Tom Mitchell. Find out how the baby is. The assistant got information. The baby was healthy. Sarah was recovering. They'd gone home. Elvis was pleased. At least that story had ended happily. But Elvis's story wasn't ending. August 14th, 1977. It was the anniversary of Elvis's mother, Gladys's death. 19 years had passed. Elvis would visit Gladys's grave every year on this day. But this year, he couldn't go. He was too tired, too sick. He stayed in his room on the upper floor of Graceland, alone, silent. That night he took prescription medication. Too much. Was it intentional? We don't know, but Elvis slept. A deep sleep. On the morning of August 15th, Elvis woke up. His head hurt. His girlfriend, Ginger Alden, was beside him. "Elvis, are you okay?" Elvis grumbled. "I'm fine. I just want to sleep." Ginger was worried but didn't say anything. Elvis slept all day. He woke up in the evening. He ate a little. He sat at the piano and played Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. Ginger listened. "You sing beautifully." Elvis smiled. "Thank you, Ginger." But there was emptiness in his eyes, as if he was very far away. August 16th, 1977. Around 2 in the morning. Elvis couldn't sleep. Ginger was sleeping beside him, but Elvis got out of bed. He went to the bathroom. He took a book. He liked to read at night. He took prescription medication for his pain. Then he sat on the toilet. He opened his book. He started reading, but something happened. His heart beat irregularly. He couldn't breathe, pain in his chest. Elvis dropped the book. He tried to stand up but couldn't. He fell onto the bathroom floor, face down. Around 2:30, Ginger woke up. Elvis wasn't in bed. "Elvis?" No answer. She went to the bathroom. She opened the door. And she saw. Elvis was lying on the floor, motionless. Ginger screamed, "Elvis! Elvis!" She ran. She tried to turn Elvis over but couldn't lift him. She called for help. Graceland staff came. An ambulance was called, but it was too late. Elvis Presley was dead, 42 years old. The king of rock and roll had fallen silent, just 16 days after Tampa, Sarah's secret. When Sarah Mitchell saw the news on television, she was in shock. August 16, 1977, in the afternoon. Baby Elvis Aaron was in her arms. He was only 2 weeks old. Tom had come home from work. The television was on. The news anchor was speaking. Elvis Presley was found dead this morning at his Graceland mansion in Memphis. He was 42 years old. Sarah's hand trembled. The baby started crying. Tom ran over. "What happened?" Sarah pointed at the screen through tears. "Elvis. Elvis died." Tom was shocked. They both looked at the television, at the news, at Elvis's photos, at Graceland footage, and Sarah cried. This wasn't just mourning the loss of a famous name. It was personal. Because Sarah remembered that night. Tampa, Elvis holding her hand, singing, and those last words, the words nobody heard. When Elvis leaned to Sarah's ear, what had he said? Sarah kept that secret for years. But now, as the writer of this book, Sarah Mitchell finally revealed it in our interview in 2024. She was 81 years old. Her son Elvis Aaron was 47, and Sarah was too tired to carry her secret anymore. That day, Sarah told this. Elvis leaned close to me. He whispered in my ear. He said, "Sarah, this baby is special. I'm one of my mother's twin babies. My brother died, but I lived. I carried 2 souls all my life. But I'm tired. Let this baby carry that second soul now. Take good care of him. Tell him that Elvis Presley loved him." And then he left. Sarah continued through tears. I didn't understand what he meant in that moment. But when Elvis died, I understood. That night in Tampa, Elvis knew. He felt it, that his time had come. And somehow he saw that baby, my son, as his own legacy, as if his life was ending, but a new life was beginning, and the two were connected. Elvis Aaron Mitchell is now 47 years old. Elvis Aaron's life. Elvis Aaron Mitchell grew up. He had a normal childhood. He went to school in Tampa. He had friends. But something was different, his love for music. Sarah and Tom never pushed him, but Elvis Aaron naturally turned to music. He started playing piano at 6 years old. He got a guitar at 10. He formed his first band at 14. And yes, he played rock and roll. During high school, friends would ask, "Why is your name Elvis?" Elvis Aaron would smile. "My mother was an Elvis Presley fan, and when I was born, he was there." Friends wouldn't believe it. "Really? Elvis Presley was at your birth?" Elvis Aaron would nod. "Yes, I was born on stage, right during the concert." The story had become legend in Tampa, but as years passed, people forgot. New generations knew Elvis Presley, but didn't know about that Tampa night. Elvis Aaron graduated from university at 20. He studied music education. He wanted to become a teacher, but he also wanted to make his own music. He formed a band. They called it the Tender Souls. The name wasn't coincidental. It came from the song Love Me Tender. The band's first concert was in Tampa, at the same stadium. But the stadium had been renovated now. It was smaller. But when Elvis Aaron stepped on stage, he felt something, a connection, as if his father, not his biological father, Tom, but his spiritual father, Elvis Presley, was there. Every year, on August 20th, Elvis Aaron's mother, Sarah, would perform a special ritual. She would go to the stadium with her son, to that front row section, and they would sit silently. They would pray. They would give thanks. Sarah would tell her son, "Today is your second birthday. The first was the day you were born. The second was the day Elvis died. Because that day, you started carrying his legacy." Elvis Aaron would nod. He didn't fully understand, but he felt it. When he turned 30, Elvis Aaron got married. His wife's name was Lisa. Coincidence? Maybe, but Elvis Presley's daughter's name was also Lisa Marie. Elvis Aaron and Lisa had a daughter. They named her Gladys, Elvis Presley's mother's name. Elvis Aaron would tell his daughter, "Your name is a queen's name, Gladys Presley. She died, but her name lives on, inside you." But the most important moment came in 2002. Elvis Aaron was 35 years old. He went to Memphis for the first time to visit Graceland. He joined the tour. He toured the inside of the house. He saw Elvis's room. He saw the jungle room. And then he went out to the garden. He saw Elvis Presley's grave. Next to him were his mother Gladys and his father Vernon. Elvis Aaron stood in front of the grave. Tears came, without wanting them, without controlling them, and he whispered, "Thank you for giving me life, for singing to my mother, and for giving me your name." A woman passed by him. She was old, a tour guide. "Are you all right?" Elvis Aaron smiled. "I'm fine, just got emotional." The woman nodded. "Everyone gets emotional here. Elvis was special." Elvis Aaron looked at the woman. "I was born in Tampa, 1977, at Elvis's concert." The woman's eyes widened. You're that baby?" Elvis Aaron was surprised. "You knew?" The woman smiled. "Everyone knows that story. Elvis's last miracle. You're a legend, young man." When Elvis Aaron left Graceland that day, something changed inside him. He wasn't just carrying a name anymore. He was carrying a mission to keep Elvis Presley's music alive, to tell new generations, and most importantly, to tell the world the story of that Tampa night. The legacy continues in 2024. Elvis Aaron Mitchell is 47 years old. He works as a music teacher in Tampa, but he also sings in his own band. He gives concerts on weekends, in small bars, small clubs. But at every concert, there's a ritual. He sings Love Me Tender. And before singing, he leans into the microphone and says this: "This song is special to me because I came into the world with this song. Elvis Presley sang this song while my mother was giving birth, and I took my first breath with this melody. Now I'm singing it for you." The crowd always goes quiet. Some cry, some smile. And as Elvis Aaron sings, he closes his eyes, as if returning to that night. Tampa Stadium, 1977. Elvis's voice, his mother's scream, his father's tears, and that first breath, the first moment of life. Sarah Mitchell passed away in 2024, at 81 years old, from cancer. But before she died, she wrote a letter to her son. Elvis Aaron read the letter at his mother's funeral. The letter said this: "My dear son, Elvis Aaron, you are the greatest gift of my life. But you're not just mine. You're also Elvis Presley's gift. That night in Tampa, he gave you something special. Not just his name. He gave you a piece of his soul. I felt it. You'll feel it too when the time comes. When Elvis died, I cried so much. Not just because I lost a celebrity, because I lost your spiritual father, but then I understood. Elvis didn't die. He lives with you. Every time you sing, every time you play guitar, every time you teach music to your students, Elvis is there, with you. Before my time comes, I want to tell you one last thing. Do you remember what Elvis told me that night? Let this baby carry the second soul. That's your mission, my son. You'll complete what Elvis couldn't complete. Be happy, be free, and keep the music alive. I love you forever. Your mother, Sarah." When Elvis Aaron finished reading the letter, he was crying. Everyone at the funeral was crying. But something else happened. Elvis Aaron took his guitar, and next to his mother's coffin, he sang Love Me Tender. One last time, as a farewell to his mother, and a circle closed. Elvis's final word. So did Elvis Presley really say those words to Sarah? Let this baby carry the second soul? We can't prove it scientifically. But according to what Sarah told, yes. And if we look at Elvis Aaron's life, his passion for music, his devotion to Elvis Presley, that mysterious connection, maybe there really was something. After Elvis Presley's death, conspiracy theories emerged. Those who said Elvis is alive. Those who said Elvis faked his death. But maybe the truth is this: Elvis died, but his soul lives on, in Elvis Aaron, and maybe in thousands of other people. Because music doesn't die. The artist dies, but the work remains. That night in Tampa, August 20th, 1977, is now legend. There are videos on YouTube. There are testimonies from witnesses. But the strongest evidence is Elvis Aaron's existence. That baby is now a 47-year-old man, and every day he carries Elvis Presley's legacy. Maybe without realizing it, maybe consciously, but he carries it. In 2025, the year this text was written, Elvis Aaron decided to make a documentary. He called it Born to Love Me Tender. In the documentary, he'll tell about that night, what happened at Tampa Stadium, how Elvis stopped the concert, how his mother gave birth, and most importantly, Elvis's last words, what he told Sarah. The documentary's premiere will be in Tampa, at the same stadium. Now it's called Amalie Arena. But for Elvis Aaron, it's still Tampa Stadium, the place where his father was born, where his spiritual father performed his last miracle. In the documentary's trailer, Elvis Aaron says this: "This isn't just my story. This is the story of Elvis Presley's last gift. That night, Elvis gave me life. Now I'm giving that story to the world. Maybe someone will be inspired. Maybe someone will find hope. And maybe someone will understand that music isn't just music. It's connection. It's love. It's life. And in the end, the question is this: did Elvis Presley save a baby in Tampa that night? Or did the baby save Elvis? Maybe they saved each other. Elvis found meaning in his final days, a purpose. And that baby, Elvis Aaron, carried a mission throughout his life: to keep Elvis's legacy alive. When Elvis died on August 16, 1977, the world mourned. But in Tampa, at Sarah Mitchell's house, a 2-week-old baby was sleeping. A white scarf was beside his crib, Elvis's scarf. And maybe, just maybe, that baby saw Elvis in his dream, singing, smiling, and whispering, "You're my legacy, little man. Live well." Today, every August 20th, Elvis Aaron returns to Tampa, to Amalie Arena, to the front row section. He sits, he closes his eyes, and he listens. What is he listening to? The silence. But in that silence, there's a melody. Love Me Tender, a melody that plays forever. In 2024, Tampa City Council made a decision. They put a plaque in that front row section. The plaque reads, "This place witnessed history on August 20th, 1977. Elvis Presley helped Sarah Mitchell at this concert, and Elvis Aaron Mitchell was born here. Music became life here. We remember this moment forever." Elvis Aaron gave a speech at the plaque's unveiling. Thousands of people were there. Media was there. Cameras were there. Elvis Aaron leaned into the microphone. "My father Tom is here. My mother Sarah, unfortunately, isn't with us, but her spirit is here. And my spiritual father, Elvis Presley, is here too. I thank them all for giving me life, for giving me music, and for giving me this story." Then Elvis Aaron took his guitar, and he played "Love Me Tender." The crowd listened silently. Some cried, some hugged. And in that moment, that magical moment, Tampa Stadium returned to 1977. Elvis was on stage. Sarah was giving birth. And a baby was coming into the world. With the melody of "Love Me Tender." Music never ends. It just changes form. Elvis Presley died on August 16th, 1977. But his music lives on. Thousands of people, like Elvis Aaron, carry his legacy. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's immortality. To die physically, but continue to live spiritually, in works, in memories, and in a baby born at Tampa Stadium. If this story inspired you, tell the next generation. Don't forget Elvis Presley. Don't forget music. And don't forget the miracle of August 20th, 1977. Because that night proved that music isn't just entertainment. It's life. It's love. And sometimes, literally, it's the beginning of a new life. Elvis Aaron Mitchell is now 47 years old. Music teacher, musician, father, husband, and most importantly, the living proof of Elvis Presley's last miracle. Every time he breathes, the "Love Me Tender" that Elvis sang that night echoes. Forever. Rock and roll never dies. It just passes to new souls. Elvis died. Long live Elvis. Long live Elvis Aaron. Long live music.